fascinating study was done on gratefulness not too long ago. Two psychologists, one from the Southern Methodist University in Dallas and the other from Robert Emmons of the University of California at Davis, conducted a study in which they split several hundred people into three different groups. In the first group, they were asked to keep a diary of the events that occurred throughout the day, not being told to write whether they were good or bad, just to write everything that happened in that day. The second group was told to write down their unpleasant experiences, things that annoyed them or bothered them. And finally, the third group was asked to make a list of only the things that they were grateful for throughout the day. Interestingly, the study indicated that those who wrote the things that they were grateful for reported higher levels of alertness, enthusiasm, determination, optimism, and higher energy. They also experienced less depression and stress, and were more likely to help each other. They exercised more regularly, and also made greater progress towards achieving their own personal goals. When you're ready, move to the next slide. Take a moment to contemplate or meditate on gratitude. When you think about things that you're grateful for, some of us might report feeling grateful for being or living in a peaceful part of the world. When we compare ourselves to people who live in war-ravaged countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, we can feel quite grateful. We can be grateful for friends, for family, if you enjoy a relatively good state of health. Then there are practical things to be grateful for, such as just the fact that you have clothing to keep you warm and protected, food, and some sort of shelter. For many people, it's a house or some form of home that protects them, keeps them warm. You can also be grateful for things that you're experiencing right now. Perhaps you're comfortable. Maybe your belly is full. Maybe you just feel content. Maybe you feel warm. The fact that you're breathing and the fact that you have choices in your life. When you're ready, move to the next slide. Thinking about these things that you were grateful for, imagine losing some of them. What if you lost your house? What if you lost your ability to see or hear, or your ability to walk? Or just anything that gives you some degree of comfort? Imagine then somebody giving them back to you, one at a time. How grateful would you be for each and every one of those things that you had lost? When you're ready, move to the next slide. Here are some ways in which you could also practice gratitude. We've already learned how powerful it was to write down the things that you're grateful for, as in the form of a journal. We saw the tremendous benefits of writing about things that you're grateful for. You may also decide to send a letter or an email, just letting somebody know how grateful you are for them in your life. A very powerful way to do this would be to meet this person face to face if it was possible, and read the letter aloud to them. Some people find it helpful to wear jewelry to remind them. Maybe it's a necklace or a bracelet. Maybe even a charm bracelet, which had specific charms. Things like a heart to remind you of those that you love. Maybe an apple to remind you of how grateful you are for your health. Think of some ways in which you might be able to practice gratefulness in your life? When you're ready, move to the next slide. The research on happiness is somewhat conflicting. Some studies showing that money buys happiness to a certain degree. But one thing that seems certain in most research is it's not the things that make us happy. Once we have clothing, shelter, and our general health needs are met, things aren't the things that increase happiness. When you're ready, move to the next slide. Of the many studies that have been done on happiness and meaningfulness, I like this one a lot. It shows by these two psychologists that those who came from more affluent countries did indeed report higher levels of happiness. But interestingly, they reported significantly lower levels of meaningfulness in their lives. It turns out that the money required to cause a sensation or feeling of happiness or life satisfaction isn't very high. To get a score at a 4 out of 10 for happiness or life satisfaction, you needed to earn $7 a year. To score 5 out of 10, you need to earn $3,000 a year. 6 out of 10 required $16,000 a year. And to record 7 out of 10, you needed to earn $64,000 a year. But looking at meaningfulness, 95 and 100%, between 95 and 100% of the respondents from Sierra Leone, Togo, Kyrgyzstan, Chad, Ethiopia, reported extremely meaningful lives, compared to only 2/3 of those living in very affluent countries of Japan, France, and Spain. On the next slide, we're going to have a meditation. It's approximately a 5-minute meditation on gratitude by Deepak Chopra. If the video doesn't immediately load, I've placed the link to this video just above. When you're ready, move to the next slide.